I don't want my son to be like a vegetable. The issue of genotype. And this is a cry of a mother and a PhD holder. Not only that, there are a lot of sufferings in various homes, all right? Financial drainage, a lot of argument, to the point that most couples have divorced because of genotype issue. But before we dive into it, let's watch this video.
I and my son wake up every midnight and I will pray. Because I'm like, my son cannot become a vegetable. And God helped me. He entered 16 years. We didn't go to hospital. 16 years, 5 months. I traveled again. I think I don't know where I went to. Was it London? I came back. And there was nothing wrong with him.
This is a clear result of not knowing your genotype, specifically your hemoglobin genotype, before entering into a relationship and before marriage. And most couples are suffering from the result or the effect of HB genotype. There are constant arguments and misunderstanding in the various homes, financial drainage, not talking about divorce, a lot of them. You see, it is very funny. People will fall in love after checking their genotype and realizing that they are not compatible. They deceive themselves that, oh, prayer can change it. I tell you, this is not the issue of prayer. It is the issue of your bone marrow. It's the issue of your red blood cells. It is the issue of your hemoglobin, your genetics. We don't solve that with prayers. So, before I explain for you to understand your HB genotype very well, I want you to know the reason why you need to check your HB genotype, your hemoglobin genotype before marriage. If possible, before any romantic relationship that you think may lead to marriage. Knowing your HB genotype before marriage or in a relationship will help you assess the risk of passing inherited blood disorder like sickle cell disease and sickle cell trait to your children, your generation, to prevent potential future problems like suffering, divorce, financial liabilities. Thirdly, for compatibility reasons. And then lastly, to know your potential genetic outcome. These are the valid reasons why you should know your HB genotype before marriage or before entering into any serious relationship, which you think might lead to marriage. Now, hemoglobin is an iron-rich protein content in your red blood cells. Okay, so when you take your blood cells, we have divisions. We have your white blood cells, we have your red blood cells, and we have your platelets. But hemoglobin is linked to your red blood cells. All right. So when you take your red blood cells, technically they are biconcave in shape. That is what I've placed top here. All right. Within it is where your hemoglobin is found. And the importance of your hemoglobin or the function of your hemoglobin is very critical. It is responsible for carrying oxygen from your lungs to your blood cells and also to every cells in your body. Remember, your body is made up of basic cells, and these cells need oxygen to function well for you to be alive. But here is where the problem comes from. There are people who do not have normal hemoglobin. Okay? So with this normal biconcave red blood cell here, which contains your hemoglobin, other red blood cells are sickled like this. That is exactly what I've placed on your screen. That is why we say HB genotype is genetics. It is inherited from your parent, from both your mother and your father. Now, let's talk about the different type of hemoglobin. We have hemoglobin A, which is a hemoglobin for a healthy, normal adult. We have hemoglobin F, which is fetal hemoglobin. So when you give birth, your child has or carries fetal hemoglobin. Until your child turns 6 months, he or she continues to carry the fetal hemoglobin. But when your child attains 6 months, it's between 6 months to 12 months, his or her hemoglobin begins to change to hemoglobin A, the healthy normal hemoglobin, unless he or she carries abnormal hemoglobin. So right from your hemoglobin F, we have hemoglobin S and hemoglobin C. These are abnormal hemoglobin. All right. With hemoglobin S, we say it is a sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease. the same as hemoglobin C. So when a person has genotype AS, we say the person has a sickle cell trait in his or her blood. When a person has genotype SS or hemoglobin S, we say the person is a sickle cell disease patient. And if a person has genotype AC, we say the person has a sickle cell trait. All right? So someone will ask, how do I know my HB genotype? There is a particular test. First, you have to run a sickle cell test. After your sickle cell test, then you further to do your HB genotype with a particular test called HB electrophoresis.